Dear listeners, before we dive into today's story, drop a quick hello in the comments and let us know where you're listening from. And if there's anything we can do to improve this channel, your suggestions are always welcome. Now let's get into it. My name is Armin and I'm 52 years old now. But truthfully, this whole mess began a few years ago. For nearly 3 decades, I worked at the same machinery plant in Rawalpindi. Started from the bottom, just another guy punching in and out every day wearing steel-toe boots and a lunchbox in hand. Over time, I moved up to a mid-level supervisor role. Nothing glamorous, but it covered the bills and kept the lights on. My ex-wife, Fariha, she left when our daughters were still young. Marine was 11 and Alina was just 8. Fariha wasn't really built for quiet family life. I guess she needed more excitement than what I could give. After she walked out, her visits became random. Sometimes she'd come by full of charm, bearing gifts and false promises. Other times, we wouldn't hear from her for half a year. I remember once, Marine was about 15, and Fariha swore she'd be at her school play. Said she wouldn't miss it for anything. We all waited. She never came. Alina cried herself to sleep that night. I told the girls, your mother has her own struggles but she does love you, in her own way. Still, it cut deep. Mostly it was just me raising them. I didn't always get everything right, but I was always there. I wanted my daughters to have a better life than I ever had. My own childhood was very modest. Just enough food, a solid roof, but nothing extra. No big holidays, no expensive toys. Just survival. I swore my girls wouldn't grow up with that mindset. So I worked. A lot. My day job at the plant, side gigs repairing stuff for neighbors, weekend consulting here and there based on my factory experience. Some weeks I'd clock in 65, even 70 hours. Year after year. But it paid off. Because of that grind, I was able to send my daughters to a respected private school. I hired tutors to help them prep for their entrance exams. Paid their university fees myself. Marine even spent a semester in Istanbul, part of a study abroad program, something I could have never imagined for myself. When Alina needed help buying her first car, I didn't think twice. I just did it. We didn't live like wealthy people, far from it. I still live in the same small house in Gulshan Colony, drive the same Suzuki Mehran I've had for over a decade, and half of my work jeans are more stitching than denim. But my girls, they never went without. My daughters had everything they needed to stay focused on school, enjoy a stable childhood and get a solid head start in life. But things began to shift once they entered their early 20s. Fariha started showing up more often. Turned out she had remarried. Her new husband's name was Samir. He gave off the image of a man who had it all together, claimed to run his own business, always dressed in designer suits, drove a shiny new black Honda Accord. With him, Fariha had changed too. More polished, more refined. Samir made it a point to insert himself into Marine and Alina's lives. He helped Marine land an internship at one of his friend's companies. For Alina, he arranged a connection at a local media agency. At first I thought, alright, maybe this isn't so bad. More support, more guidance, couldn't hurt. But then I noticed something subtle and painful. The girls began drifting away. Our phone calls grew shorter. They were often too busy, usually with something involving Fariha or Samir. Conversations started revolving around Samir's big house, the influential people he knew, his glamorous lifestyle. Compared to all that, my quiet little home in Gulshan Colony, my humble routine, it must have felt so plain. There was one weekend I'll never forget. I had planned a camping trip, something we used to love doing when they were younger. Just the 3 of us like the old days. Both backed out last minute. Marine said Samir had invited them to some exclusive event. Alina mentioned a networking meetup Samir had arranged. It stung. Badly. Still, I told myself they're adults now. They're finding their own way. But deep down I felt like I was being slowly erased. Then came the real blow. It started as little things. Questions. Odd remarks about jeans and who they take after. At first I brushed it off, but I started sensing something beneath the surface. Something planted. Then one evening Marine called me. She sounded uneasy. She asked, Abu, is there anything you haven't told us about Ami? From before the divorce. I froze. What do you mean, Beta? She paused, then said, Ami told me she had an affair a long time ago. Before the split. And now she thinks someone else might be our real father. My heart sank. Fariha and I had our problems, plenty of them. But not once did I doubt the girls were mine. Apparently, Samir had been part of these talks too. According to Marine, he had brought up some legal and inheritance-related issues, talking about tax benefits, estate matters, biological parentage. Samir had apparently told them that if things were planned properly, he could legally adopt them as adults. He said it would make their place in his and Fariha's new family official. Marine and Alina started using phrases I had never heard from them before, words like modern family structure and emotional closure about our true heritage. It was surreal. Fariha, during our marriage she had a temper, a harsh one. If something did not go her way she could erupt. Screaming, breaking things, turning the whole house into chaos. I remember one time, Marine must have been 5 years old. Fariha had promised to take her to a special puppet show at the Rawalpindi Arts Council. It was the kind of thing a little girl would never forget. But just the day before she got a call from a friend who invited her on a weekend trip to Islamabad. The puppet show? Forgotten. Completely. I brought it up gently, just said that Marine would be disappointed. Fariha exploded. Said I was holding her back. Accused me of suffocating her like I was chaining her down to a boring life. Marine stood there, silent and scared, clutching her little bag, confused and heartbroken. That image, it never left me. That was Fariha. All fire and drama. Big promises, big letdowns. And now, with Samir, it felt like she was replaying the same script, but with more money and a smoother mask. She had disappeared from their lives once before. Now she was back, trying to pull them away from me entirely. There was another time when the girls were teenagers. Fariha was supposed to take them shopping for school supplies and clothes. She arrived 3 hours late, smelled of wine, and had brought only half the money she promised. Alina quietly asked, "Ami, will I still be able to get those sneakers I wanted?" Fariha snapped. She yelled at both of them, called them ungrateful. Claimed she was sacrificing everything just to see them. Then she threw the cash she had on the kitchen table and stormed out. The girls sat there crying. The next day I took them shopping myself. That was always the pattern: drama, excuses, disappointment. And now, Samir was helping her cover it all up with expensive outings and fake smiles. He had the money and the influence, and Fariha was using both to turn my daughter's attention away from me. The confrontation happened about 2 weeks after Marine's strange phone call. They both asked to come over. When they walked in, they sat down together on my old, creaky couch, the same one they had jumped on as kids. Marine did most of the talking. Alina just stared down at her hands, barely saying a word. Marine repeated what Fariha had told them, that during the time before the divorce, Fariha had an affair. Marine said that Fariha now believed I might not be her biological father. That she had an affair before Marine was conceived, and possibly another before Alina. She's really upset about it, Marine said. She wants to make things right. Then Alina spoke up for the first time. Quietly, as if she had practiced it. Samir explained everything to us. If he adopts us, it'll just make inheritance easier. He said it's a practical step. For our financial future. She looked up. It's just legal stuff, Abu. For taxes and things. Marine nodded as if she were trying to calm me down. It's not personal, Dad. But then she said something that tore right through me. Samir just fits better with our lives now. Mom's happier and things are looking up with his help. I didn't say anything at first. I just sat there listening. My heart was pounding, but I kept my face still. After everything, the sleepless nights, the school fees, the scraped knees, the birthdays, the broken hearts, they were sitting here talking like I was some temporary guardian whose role was done. I stood up and walked over to my old filing cabinet, the one tucked into the corner of the living room. It creaked like always when I opened it. I pulled out a thick file I hadn't touched in years. During the divorce, I said slowly, Fariha tried to claim I wasn't Marine's father. Maybe to gain some leverage. Maybe just to hurt me. I placed the documents on the table. We had to do paternity tests. Both of you. It was required for the final custody papers. I unfolded the official forms and laid them out in front of them. These were court verified, I said, voice steady. You are both my daughters. Marine picked up the top paper, skimmed it and put it back down. Alina didn't even look. Mom said those tests might not be accurate anymore, Marine said flatly. Science has advanced, Alina added, almost in a whisper. Samir said he'd pay for new ones if we want, Marine continued. But honestly, he also said, what's the point? It's about who steps up. And he's stepping up. I could barely hear her after that. Not because she was quiet, but because my mind had gone completely still. They weren't just doubting paperwork. They were dismissing history. Dismissing me. They weren't interested in the truth. They were interested in what felt easier. What was convenient. What Fariha and Samir had convinced them to believe. They didn't argue with the papers. They didn't get angry. They didn't even seem confused. They just let it go. Like I never mattered. Marine actually said the words I never thought I would hear from her. Look, Abu, we appreciate everything you did for us growing up. Truly. But we're adults now. We have to think about our future. Mom and Samir, they're offering us something different. She said it like she was explaining a logical career move, not rewriting her past. I just sat there for a long moment. The silence pressed down on the room. They shifted uncomfortably on the old couch, waiting, maybe, for me to argue. To fight. To beg. But I didn't. I felt nothing. Like a switch inside me had flipped off without warning. Not pain. Not even anger. Just empty space. I slowly collected the paternity documents, folded them carefully, and placed them back in the envelope. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't plead. I didn't accuse. What would be the point? They had already made their choice. I looked at them one last time. My daughters. The girls I carried when they had fevers. The ones I taught how to cross a road safely, how to ride a bicycle, how to tell right from wrong. The girls I took late-night shifts for, just to buy them school supplies and birthday cakes. And then I did what I had to. The next morning I started making calls. First, I cut off all financial support. The small allowance I still sent Alina for her college supplies. The top-up I gave Marine each month to help with her city rent. Stopped. Next was health insurance. I contacted my provider and removed both of them from my plan. They were adults now. They had made their decision. They could get their own coverage, or maybe Samir could handle it. Then came Alina's car, the one I had co-signed a loan for. I called the bank, explained the situation, and started the process to revoke my co-signature. It took some effort, but it was possible. She'd have to refinance or ask Samir to co-sign. Years ago, I had quietly set up emergency savings accounts for both girls. Small deposits every month. Just in case. I closed both accounts. Moved the money back into my own savings. Finally, I sent them each the same text message. Polite. Clear. Final. I have received your decision regarding your family and future. As you no longer consider me your father, I will no longer be supporting your adult lives. I wish you both well. Then I blocked their numbers. Not out of revenge. Not out of spite. I needed space. I needed silence that wasn't filled with the sound of my own daughters choosing someone else. And that silence came. Months of it. Not a call. Not a message. Not even a forwarded meme. I imagined they were busy, with Fariha and Samir building this new life they had traded me for. Eventually I unblocked them. Not because I was ready, but because I needed to stop expecting anything. And in return, nothing. No apology. No regret. No voice calling out, Abu again. Just silence. I went to work. I came home. And slowly, painfully, I tried to get used to the quiet. But every room in the house still remembered them. Every room in the house held a memory. But I kept putting one foot in front of the other. Quiet dinners. Empty halls. A strange stillness where once there was laughter. And then, slowly things started to shift. Not for me. For them. I heard it first through others. Not directly. Never directly. Turns out Samir wasn't as invincible as he looked. His main business, the one he always bragged about, took a hit. Some big deal fell through. The kind he claimed would change everything. Those fancy connections he promised Marine? The ones that were supposed to catapult her into a dream career after her internship? They evaporated. No full-time offer. No backup plan. Alina's modeling agency, the one Samir had connected her with, lost its biggest client. First her hours were cut. Then cut again. And again. And slowly Fariha and Samir began pulling back. Not just emotionally, though that too. But more importantly for the girls, financially. Suddenly that different kind of future didn't seem so bright. Didn't seem so different after all. Then the messages started. 6 months after I sent my final text. Little things at first. Alina texted, "Hey Abu, just checking in. Hope you're doing okay." No mention of what happened. No apology. Just a feeler. A week later Marine left a voicemail. Her voice was soft, uncertain. "Hi Abu, it's me. I was just thinking about you. Give me a call sometime, if you want." I didn't reply. What was there to say? They had made it clear. I was the past. Samir was the future. And now that Samir's well was running dry, they were back. You might wonder how they believed it all so easily, how Fariha spun the story, how the girls bought into it. It's complicated. Fariha has always had a talent for bending emotions. When she is in meltdown mode, she becomes magnetic. Tears flowing, voice shaking, heartbroken victim of a cruel world. She twists facts like a magician, always painting herself as the one who's been wronged. She can make you doubt your own memory, even your own guilt. And she's entitled. Always has been. If she wants something, she convinces herself she deserves it, no matter what it costs others. No matter who she has to hurt. Samir? He was just a shiny new toy to her. Money, success, image, and the girls? They were part of the package. Part of the fantasy she was selling. She probably told them I was boring. Safe. Old-fashioned. That I was stuck in the past while Samir was the future they deserved. Do I think Samir was a cartoon villain? No. But he enabled it all. And when he saw a chance to undermine me, he took it. Maybe it made him feel more like the hero in their story. The whole adoption thing? Samir probably framed it like he was doing us all a favor. Generous. Practical. A clean, modern solution. He probably didn't think beyond the surface. Didn't consider the weight of what it meant. He definitely underestimated how much I was actually doing, day in, day out, for Marine and Alina. He had no idea what it would cost him to truly take over. His little suggestions, about paternity, tax benefits, paperwork, they were never about love. They were about making it sound reasonable, like this was some kind of upgrade. He helped Fariha build the illusion that they were stepping into something better. A better version of a family. Did the girls show any regret? Any hint of remorse? No. Not a flicker. Not until everything with Samir started to fall apart. And even then, when the calls and messages began again, they were casual. As if nothing major had happened. As if they hadn't torn something sacred apart. Hey Abu, just checking in? Was thinking about you. Hope you're well. No, I'm sorry. No, we messed up. Just cold feelers. That silence spoke louder than any apology. But reading the comments, thinking through everything, some of you said I owed them nothing. Others said maybe I should hear them out. Just once. Not for them but for myself. For closure. But the truth is, I already had closure. They gave it to me the day they stood in this house and said Samir fit better. Still, life has a strange way of circling back. Last week, on a quiet Saturday morning, the doorbell rang. It was them. Both of them. Marine and Alina. No warning. No message. Just standing there on my doorstep. They looked tired. Really tired. Marine's eyes were red and puffy. Alina looked like she hadn't slept in days. Like life had finally caught up to them. For a second I just stood there in the doorway staring. Then Marine said, Abu, can we talk? I didn't answer right away. I just looked at them. Marine dropped her gaze to the ground. Alina was chewing her bottom lip, just like she used to when she was a little girl, nervous before the dentist. And then I said, all right, come in. You have 10 minutes. They looked surprised. Like they expected me to slam the door. Maybe they thought there'd be shouting. Or tears. But I just turned and walked into the house. They followed into the living room. The same room where they once told me Samir fit better. I didn't offer them a seat. I stood. They stood. Awkward. Fidgeting. Like two kids about to be scolded by the principal. Marine spoke first. Abu, we messed up. Really badly. Alina nodded, eyes already glistening. We were so stupid, she whispered. Marine's voice cracked. Amy, she was so convincing. And Samir, he made it all sound so perfect, Marine said softly. Her voice was thin, like something fragile that could snap if I spoke too soon. He painted this picture, Abu. Like this amazing new life was waiting for us. Like we were just one decision away from everything falling into place. She looked up then, eyes searching mine, hoping to find something, understanding maybe. A trace of who I used to be for her. I wanted to believe it. I wanted to believe that things could be easy. Exciting. A fresh start. So that's what it was. A fresh start. From their actual life. From me. Good to know. Then Alina spoke, her voice cracking halfway through the sentence. I just wanted to feel like I was part of something that worked. Something successful. She glanced down, blinking back tears. Samir, he seemed so successful. Emmy was glowing. I thought, maybe this was my chance to have that kind of life. The tears came quietly. No sobbing. No theatrics. Just tears. Real ones. We didn't know what we were throwing away, she whispered. Not really. They kept talking after that. Not much of it was new. Mostly excuses. How Fariha had pushed them. How Samir made promises. How they'd felt swept up, overwhelmed, convinced it was the right thing. And now it was all falling apart. Fariha was apparently making their lives miserable, blaming them, scolding them for not being grateful after all she and Samir had done. Samir, they said, was pulling away. Distant. Cold. Like he was already done playing happy family. That perfect future they were promised? It had rusted faster than they ever expected. And me? I just listened. I didn't interrupt. Didn't nod. Didn't offer Alina a tissue. Didn't rest a hand on Marine's shoulder. I sat still, quiet, expressionless. When their voices finally trailed off, they both looked at me. Hopeful, scared. Like they were waiting for something, maybe forgiveness. Maybe a sign that I would fold. I took a breath, slow, controlled. And then I spoke. So let me see if I understand this. My voice was calm, even, almost too calm. Your mother, a woman who walked away from you time and time again, who broke every promise she ever made, told you I wasn't your real father. And her new husband, a man you barely knew, offered to adopt you. Not out of love, not out of commitment, but to help himself save on taxes. To make his new family look complete for show. And both of you, my educated adult daughters, decided that sounded like a good idea. They both flinched, like my words had weight. Good. I wasn't here to be cruel. But I also wasn't here to shield them from the truth. I continued, voice steady. You said you wanted a fresh start, Marine? A fresh start, from what exactly? From the father who worked 70 hours a week to give you everything? She didn't answer. She just stood there. Eyes down, shoulders sinking. And for the first time in a long time, the silence between us said more than their words ever could. Marine stood there, eyes red, lips trembling. But I turned to Alina. You said you wanted to be part of something successful, I said. So tell me, was my life not a success to you? Were my sacrifices not enough? Alina's shoulders shook. The tears came fast now, louder, messier. No, Abel. It's not like that, please. It's not like that? I cut her off, calm but with a cold edge. What exactly was it like then, Alina? I turned back to Marine. And you, Marine? What did you mean when you stared at legal proof, proof that I am your father, and decided to dismiss it? What did you mean when you said Samir fits better in your life now? They both stared at me like they wanted to disappear. You were very clear then, I said. So don't come here now with, we didn't mean it. You did mean it. Marine's voice cracked. Abu, please, we know we were wrong. We are so sorry. Sorry? I echoed. You think sorry is a magic word? I shook my head slowly. It doesn't erase what you did. It doesn't undo your decisions. You made a choice. You chose them. You chose their story. You chose their convenience over your own father. They were both crying now. But I stayed quiet. I let the weight of my words settle between us like dust. Then I spoke again. You stood right here, I said, motioning around the room, and disowned me. Not in anger. Not in confusion. But in certainty. You said I wasn't your father. That Samir made more sense. Their silence was answer enough. And now you're here because that shiny new life collapsed. Because Samir's money is gone. Because Fariha is being Fariha again. You didn't come back when you still believed Samir was your golden ticket. You came back because your safety net with them snapped. And now you're hoping your old safety net, me, is still intact. I looked at them. Really looked. Marine's face was blotchy. Alina's mascara had run down her cheeks. But their tears didn't move me. Well, I said, voice still low, still even, here's my decision. You're right. You did throw something away. You threw away our relationship. You threw away my trust. And you threw away any obligation I had to you, as a father. Because the moment you chose to believe I wasn't your father, was the moment I stopped being one. I took a slow step forward. When you walked out that door, you didn't just walk away from me. You walked into another family. You became Fariha's daughters. Samir's stepdaughters. Not mine. Silence. Just their quiet sobs. Your 10 minutes are up. There's nothing for you here. Not my time. Not my money. Not my help. Nothing. I pointed to the door. Go back to Fariha and Samir. You chose them. So live with that choice. Do not contact me again. We're done. Marine looked at me like I had slapped her. Abu, you don't mean that, she said. We're your daughters. I met her eyes without flinching. No, Marine. I don't believe that anymore. You made it clear. You are not. I have the papers to prove you share my blood. But you chose to reject that. You rejected me. So no. Not in any way that matters now, you are not my daughters. Alina stood there shaking. Her cheeks soaked with tears. She tried to speak but not a word came out. Marine opened her mouth, then closed it again. She must have seen something in my face. Something final. Something unmovable. So she didn't argue. Instead, she gently took Alina's arm and turned toward the door. I didn't stop them. I didn't say another word. I just watched. Watched as they walked down the path toward Alina's car, the same one I helped pay for once upon a time, and drove away. I closed the door behind them, slowly. But I didn't feel sadness. I didn't feel anger either. What I felt was quiet. Like a storm had finally passed. Like the sky had cleared after months of thunder. The air felt still, clean, honest. Was it harsh? Yes. But it was the truth. My truth. The only truth that mattered now. They burned the bridge a long time ago. Long before they came crawling back. All I did was confirm that there was nothing left of it. No wood. No rope. No stone. Just ashes. I do not know what they will do now. And frankly, it is not my concern anymore. 1 year later. Life has been different since that final confrontation. It's been 1 full year. Not a call. Not a text. Not even a forwarded email from Marine or Alina. They took my words seriously, it seems. Or maybe Fariha and Samir have them under tighter control now. Or maybe they found another angle, another solution to their unraveling lives. I don't know. I haven't asked. I haven't looked. Some people might think that is cold. But I spent over 20 years putting them first. Every overtime shift. Every missed vacation. Every time I put off buying something for myself so they could have a little more. Every late night I came home exhausted, only to help with homework or glue together some last-minute school project. Every choice. Every sacrifice. Every delay in my own joy was for them. And when they had one chance, one simple chance, to show loyalty, to stand beside the man who raised them, they did not hesitate. They abandoned me. They believed the worst. They chased a fantasy. And they discarded me like some outdated piece of furniture. Something that did not match the new aesthetic of their lives. Something old. Something inconvenient. Something to be replaced. The well I had for them, the one filled with love, sacrifice, forgiveness. It ran dry the day they stood in my home, handed me those paternity papers, and looked at me like I was a stranger. What I said in that final meeting, that was not anger speaking. That was truth. That was me giving voice to something they had already decided. They walked away long before I told them to leave. These days my life is simple. I wake up, get ready and head to the plant for work. I still wear my old jeans. Still live in this same small house with creaky floorboards and a porch I never quite got around to repainting. It's quiet here. Peaceful. No more drama. No more late-night calls asking for tuition money. No more help with down payments. No more topping off an emergency fund that was always only for them. And most of all, no more wondering if they're okay only to be met with silence or demands. That cycle is over. As for Fariha and Samir, I don't know what's going on in their world now. I don't ask. No one tells me. And I don't care to know. They moved to another city. Our lives no longer intersect. Fariha is probably still Fariha. People like her do not change. They just move on to the next stage, the next stage, the next performance. And Samir? Well, I imagine he learned the hard way that buying himself a ready-made family isn't as easy as writing a few checks. Love, respect, loyalty. Those are not for sale. So that is it. That is the end of this story, I suppose. No big dramatic finale. No redemption arc. No last-minute tears, reunions, or hugs on the doorstep. They are gone from my life. And I am moving forward with mine. I'm doing well. And to those of you who listened through all of this, who offered thoughts, shared your own stories, or even just sat quietly on the other side of this screen, thank you. It helped. It truly did. It helped knowing I wasn't shouting into the void. Dear listeners, if this story meant something to you, please leave your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. There is more to come. Not from the past, but from what's ahead. Because for the first time in a long time, my story is mine again. And it finally feels like peace.